on the record in the matter of the appeal of Abirami Baskarapandian, OTA case number 18-01-1966. This hearing is taking place in Sacramento, California on May 28th, 2019. The time is approximately 10 a.m. The panel of administrative law judges includes Jeffrey Njija, Michael Geary, and me, Alberto Rosas. And although I may be the lead AOJ for purposes of conducting this hearing, I would like to point out that this panel, the three of us, we are all equal participants and equal decision makers. We're going to start with the appearances from everyone involved, starting with, to my left, with the taxpayer. If you could please state your name for the record.
My name is Baskarapandian.
Abirami Baskarapandian.
Chad Backus.
Stephen Smith.
And Kevin Hanks with CDTFA.
Thank you, and as everyone will note, we do have a stenographer who's transcribing everything that's being said, so I would like to remind everyone to please speak slowly, speak clearly, and also make sure you speak one at a time and do not speak over one another. Before we begin with testimony, I just want to go over a few administrative matters. We did have a pre-hearing conference earlier this month on May the 7th, and that conference resulted in several orders. One of them is that appellants exhibits 1 through 15 were admitted into evidence. Respondents exhibits A through D, that's alpha through delta, were admitted into evidence. We also agreed that only 2 witnesses, Abirami Baskarapandian and S. Baskarapandian, will testify at today's hearing. Additionally, we also discussed that the taxpayer has the option of recording this hearing if they so choose. Is this an accurate summary of the orders from the May 7th pre-hearing conference?
Yes, it is.
CDTFA?
Yes.
In addition, today, this morning, we held an in-person pre-hearing conference, and we discussed several matters. One of them, appellants exhibit 16, shall be admitted into evidence. Respondents exhibit E, that's exhibit echo, shall be admitted into evidence. We also discussed the fact that CDTFA shall send the notice of determination issued to Mr. G. Pizzeria Incorporated, dated October 22nd, 2012. CDTFA will send the taxpayers and OTA a copy of that notice of determination within 2 weeks, so by close of business on July 11th, 2019.
And actually, Judge, we ended up getting a copy emailed over, and we had a copy printed out, so we have a copy here. I don't know, additional copies can be made at this time to present to taxpayer or to the panel.
Definitely, if we could make a copy of that, that'd be great. So for taxpayers, the document that we were discussing in our conference this morning, that notice of determination, they have a copy. They will print copies and give you one. And you look it over. If you have any questions, please let us know. And if you don't have any objections, we will also admit that into evidence. In regards to Exhibit 16 and Exhibit E, are there any objections or any questions regarding those exhibits?
None.
Okay. I hereby admit Exhibit 16 and Exhibit E echo into evidence. Mrs. Baskarapandian, in terms of your wanting to record the hearing, just want to remind you that the stenographer's transcript is the official record of this hearing. The official record will not be your recording, just as it is not the video recording. The official record is the transcript. I'm just going to go off the record and take a brief moment while when we get those copies of the NOD.
Yes, sir.
and we are still off the record, the taxpayers, they just handed you a copy of the notice of determination that we were discussing. Please take a moment to look at it and let us know when you're ready to discuss. Mr. and Mrs. Baskarapandian, you're done reviewing the document. Can we discuss it now? We're ready to go back on the record. Mr. and Mrs. Baskarapandian, do you have any questions regarding this document, which I will identify as Exhibit F, Foxtrot?
No.
Do you have any objections to our admitting Exhibit F into evidence?
This one.
Exhibit F is hereby admitted into evidence. Before we begin with the testimony, does either party have any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. We will begin as we discussed with Mrs. Baskarapandian. If you can please rise. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You may be seated. And Mrs. Baskarapandian, my understanding is that your testimony will consist of reading from a prepared statement. Whenever you're ready, you may begin.
Do I need to speak to the mic?
That would be great, thank you.
Respected judges, my name is Abirami Baskarapandian, owner of Universal Print Company and CEO of Parsoy Incorporated. I am standing today in front of the OTA judges because of a notice of successor liability given by CDTFA/BOE. I am here to prove mainly two things: that Exhibit 1 and 12, pages 1 and 2 of BOE 65 is an invalid document, and that the successful liability does not apply to asset purchases. Around February 2013, my husband S. Baskarapandian, Sam, lost his corporate job. The search to start a small business rose in our minds. Mr. G's Pizza was for sale. It was a micro business selling pizza and pasta running in a 900 square foot space. We approached Mr. Mehdi Gurgani and discussion began. Since it was a small operation, we felt it would be perfect for us first-timers. So a person-to-person deal was struck. Third-party and escrow companies were not involved. It was bought totally on trust. The assets moved to us on September 1, 2013, with all new permits, new membership to vendors, new accounts for insurance, phones, and utilities. A new POS system and credit card processor was put in. Nothing of Mr. Gurgani's account was used. Just the equipment stayed the same. I didn't know at that time that the pizza place was Corporation Mr. G's Pizzeria, which I will use MGB from now on. And also didn't know that I had to get a clearance from BOE for any liabilities. Actually, we walked into the BOE office in West Covina sometime in September. I forget the date. To add the name Mr. G's Pizzeria and Pasta to my already existing Universal Print Company seller's permit. The personnel who took our paperwork processed it and gave us the seller's permit for Mr. G's Pizzeria and Pasta with my name on it. No e-registration was done as per CDTFA. It was all done in the West Covina office, so no chance of us to receive a pop-up screen with outstanding liabilities as per Elizabeth Reyes, Business Taxes Compliance Specialist, and Vicky Chen Lau, Business Taxes Specialist 1. Then came the letter from BOE dated April 24th, 2015, that I am responsible for the successor liability of MGP. That is the moment we realized that Mr. G's Pizza was under a corporation MGP. We appealed to Ms. Denise Riley, Tax Counsel 3. It was ignorance of the law that has brought me to this position today. Ms. Denise Riley said in our first appeal that ignorance of the law is not an excuse. So let's get to the case. There are a few documents required to be submitted along with the BOE 65 in order to close out the seller's point. If you see Exhibit 1, BOE 65, page 1, it is an incomplete form. No sale price is mentioned. No mention of Mr. G's Pizza being sold to me. And most of all, there is no signature and date. It is unclear who filled the form and turned it in. Secondly, let's look at Exhibit 12, page 12, 2 of the same BOE 65 form. Again, it is incomplete. It is unclear whether the BOE personnel at the counter collected the necessary documents required and all the necessary outstanding payments in order to close the permit. No check marks were made on the form in regards to the documents that were collected. If the form was mailed in, did the staff reach out to request all required documents and payments? On this basis, we can clearly see that an official unsigned form automatically becomes invalid. Since it is unclear if CDTFA/BOE requested from whomever turned in the form to sign it, also if the final tax return was filed and paid. I would like to ask CDTFA at this point if all of the documents and payments were collected from MGP. If no proof can be given, it can be decided that this specific BOE 65 form is invalid and hence the seller's permit is officially not closed. This makes the successor liability invalid as the use tax liability still lies with MGP and its officer, Mr. Brady Gorgani. Negligence of the law by CDTFA personnel should also not be excused. Now I want to touch upon the purchase matter. With MGP being a corporation, a purchase of assets does not make me liable for successor liability. According to California law, a successor entity or person is not liable for the debts, acts, liabilities, or obligations of its predecessors, except the purchaser expressly agrees to assume such debts and liabilities. Where the transaction is merely a consolidation of a merger, the purchasing corporation is merely a continuation of the selling corporation, where the transaction was fraudulently made in order to escape liability for such debts. It is clear from item 1 that I was not aware of the liabilities and hence no assumption. Item 2, it is not true either, as it was neither a consolidation or a merger. Item 3 does not apply as neither was I a corporation or any officers from MGP became part of my sole proprietorship. Item 4 is untrue. This makes me not the successor of MGP and hence not responsible for the successor liability. From the additional briefing CD sent by CDTFA, it is clear that CDTFA didn't show any method of collecting payments from MGP after October 2012. There are no correspondence from CDTFA to MGP on this matter after 2012. BOE CDTFA Publication 74 states that the board will generally only try to collect from a successor if unable to do so from the seller. I would like to ask CDTFA if any and what methods we use to collect the liability from MGP. Again, if CDTFA has no proof, negligence of the law cannot be excused. In conclusion, I am neither the successor of MGP nor did I purchase MGP business. Negligence of the law cannot be excused as official documents were accepted and processed with no signature and skeletal information on the BOE 65 form. Also, an asset purchased from a corporation does not make me liable for predecessor liability. On these two terms, I request that I be relieved of the successor liability. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Baskarapandian. Does CDTFA have any questions for this witness? I'm sorry?
No, we do not.
Thank you. I will now turn it over to my co-panelist, Mr. Gary. Do you have any questions?
Maybe not a question, well, it is a question. Are you aware that the person from whom the business was purchased remains liable for the taxes also, in addition to you?
I do realize that.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Geary. Mr. Njija?
No questions.
And as for me, I also do not have any questions, but thank you very much for your time and your testimony. We will now move forward with Mr. Baskarapandian's testimony. Sir, you would please rise and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. You may be seated. Mr. Baskarapandian, it's my understanding that your testimony will likewise consist of reading from a prepared statement. You may begin your testimony whenever you are ready.
Thank you. Respected honorable judges, we present our case in the previous hearing before Dennis Riley on an emotional basis, citing our character as law-abiding citizens, unaware of the proper procedures involved in starting a business after being laid off from a corporate career as an engineer. We argued our purchase of assets was from Mr. Mehdi Gurgani directly and not the corporation Mr. G. Speaksaraya. With all the documents from our side to prove that, we showed no intent or acted to circumvent any laws during this process by duly following all procedures required to set up a new seller's permit account. Ms. Denise Riley failed to accept our line of argument and came to the conclusion that we are liable and ignorance of the law was no excuse. We were assisted by TAP office in this appeal process, and the case was presented by what we now consider a weak argument. However, during the in-person appeal session, we were presented for the first time with documents from CDTFA. Close scrutiny of those documents now enables us to make a stronger and more credible case for absolving us of this liability. While Ms. Denise Riley made the decision of our ignorance of the law as not an excuse, we are now going to present a case to you and show negligence of the law by CDTFA and hold them to the same standard we were held to. We intend to present in our final appeal only facts and the appropriate evidence, not a motion to plead our case. CDTFA failed to follow the law as required by their own publication and were negligent and sloppy in following procedures for which they need to be held accountable. Form 65 filled out fraudulently by Mehdi Gurgani and incorrectly accepted by CDTFA staff. There is no legal corporate entity registered by Mehdi Gurgani with the name Mr. G. Speaksaraya. Only Mr. G. Speaksaraya and Pasta and the California Secretary of State has clearly returned his application when he wrongly used another spelling of Mr. G. Speaksaraya and Pasta. On question 3E of DOE 65 was not answered when it clearly stated the purchase price must be listed. CDTFA could not obtain that information from him, and they called us to get the bill of sale information from which they are assigning liability to us. Most importantly, this document is not signed, and any document submitted by a corporation has to be signed by an officer of the company with their title listed. Lack of this important signature makes this complete document invalid. It clearly shows Mehdi Gurgani was intending to defraud both CDTFA and Abirami Baskarapandian. On the second page of CDTFA showed no diligence in getting the required information before closing the seller's permit. Based on the above facts, we request you view this DOE 65 document filed by Mehdi Gurgani and accepted negligently by CDTFA to be an invalid document and hold Mehdi Gurgani still responsible for this outstanding tax liability. If you study this tax liability in depth, you will find CDTFA issued this to Mehdi Gurgani because of the fraud he committed in the years before he sold the business assets to us as an individual. Mr. G. Speaksaraya is a non-existent legal entity in the state of California. Combined with an incomplete unsigned DOE Form 65 makes it an invalid application to close the seller's permit submitted by Mehdi Gurgani. We believe this is a strong argument, and I've seen similar arguments made before a court of law by citizens challenging the government and vice versa. Just to give examples that we came across, the most expensive typo in legislative history in 1872 One misplaced comma in a tariff law cost American taxpayers more than $2 million or $40 million in today's dollars. Lack of an Oxford comma cost a main company millions in overtime dispute. Appeals court sided with the drivers, saying the absence of a comma produced enough uncertainty to rule in their favor for reversing a lower court decision. Olivia Jane Giannoli, a USC admission scandal student, trademark application for her beauty brand had been rejected for pure punctuation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baskarapandian. Does CDTFA have any questions for this witness?
We do not.
Thank you. I will now turn it over to my co-panelist. Mr. Gary, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Njija?
No, thank you.
And as for me, I also do not have any questions, but I want to thank both of you for your testimony today. Thank you very much. We will now proceed with CDTFA's legal argument. CDTFA will have up to 10 minutes. You may begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Pursuant to Revenue and Taxation Code Section 6811, if any person with a sales and use tax liability sells their business, their successor is required to withhold from the purchase price an amount sufficient to cover the seller's liability until the seller produces either a receipt from the department showing the amount has been paid or a certificate stating that no amount is due. Furthermore, under Revenue and Taxation Code Section 6812, if the purchaser of a business fails to withhold from the purchase price as required, she becomes personally liable for the payment of the amount required to be withheld by her to the extent of the purchase price of business. Regulation 1702 explains how a purchaser may be released from the obligation to withhold an amount. She can either obtain a certificate from CDTFA stating that no amounts are due from the predecessor, or she will be released from the obligation to withhold if she makes a written request to CDTFA for a tax clearance and CDTFA fails to respond or does not respond in a timely manner. The regulation also states that a purchaser of a business will be held liable as a successor if she purchases substantially all of the business. Here, appellant and Mandy Borgani, who was Mr. G's Pizzeria's Incorporated sole corporate officer, executed a bill of sale dated September 1st, 2013, which conveys the equipment, operations, and goodwill of Mr. G's Pizzeria and Pasta located at 2767 South Diamond Bar Boulevard in Diamond Bar, California. Appellant, her husband, S. Baskarapandian, and Mandy Gorgani also executed a purchase agreement signed and dated August 28, 2013, which was for the business concern known as Mr. G's Pizzeria and Pasta. This purchase agreement sets forth the terms and conditions of the lease of the business premises, including the amount of rent, equipment lease, utility charges, taxes, and other miscellaneous items. Mr. Gorgani filed a notice of closeout for seller's permit form listing the closeout date of his seller's permit as August 31st, 2013, and that appellant was the purchaser of the business. This is Form 65 that appellant referenced in her testimony. On September 19th, 2013, appellant added Mr. G's Pizzeria as a sublocation on her existing sole proprietor seller's permit. Our understanding was that that was done using the electronic registration. According to appellant, that was done in one of our field offices. Appellant also states that the purchase price of the business was $20,000 and that the value of the equipment was $5,000. Beginning in September of 2013, appellant began operating the same type of business as the predecessor at the same business location using the same business name. And we do note that the name of the spelling of pizzeria changed from pizzeria with an A to pizzeria with an E. So that minor change was made, but the name of the business continued to be Mr. G's Pizzeria and Pasta. Based on the foregoing, appellant purchased substantially all of the predecessor's business. There is no dispute that appellant did not withhold from the selling price an amount sufficient to cover Mr. G's Pizzeria's tax liabilities. Appellant also did not obtain a tax clearance from the department, stating that no tax was due for Mr. G's Pizzeria Incorporated. Accordingly, appellant is liable as a successor for Mr. G's Pizzeria's unpaid tax liabilities to the extent of the purchase price, which was $20,000. Therefore, this appeal should be denied. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Baskarapandian, you expressed an interest in possibly taking a break before your closing argument. Do you still need that break, or can you just continue?
Give us
5 minutes.
3 or 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes.
Sure, not a problem. We're off the record. Back on the record. Mrs. Baskarapandian, are you ready to proceed with your closing argument?
Yes.
You will have up to 10 minutes. You may begin whenever you're ready.
According to the Secretary of State document, Mr. Mehdi Gorgani had registered the corporation with the specific name Mr. G's Pizzeria and Pasta. Everywhere else that CDTFA has produced paperwork for us only says Mr. G's Pizzeria. The Secretary of State, as argument mentioned by Mr. Sam Baskarapandian, said that they had turned back one of his filing with the Secretary of State because he had used a wrong spelling. Again, here, again, a wrong spelling with the whole and pasta were missing. So, who is this Mr. G's Pizzeria? We don't know. Second point, I had asked CDTFA certain couple of questions. The first one was what documents were collected in order to close out the BOE 65 form. Because on page 2 of the form, there is no mention of any forms that were collected. If that is not collected, then again, the seller's permit is invalid and is not closed. Also, I had asked them what procedure they had used in order to collect the money from Mr. G's Pizzeria as much as possible. Because the last transaction that took place between the CDTFA and MGP was NOD or a letter sent to him on October 22nd, 2012. As I know of, the next letter that came to me was April 24th, 2015. So in that 3 years, I want to know what CDTFA did to collect the payment from him. Did they give him a court order? Did they want him to come and do like a successor liability fine? When they sent me the letter in October, I had to respond within 30 days in order to be called to court. Was there a lawsuit on him? I don't understand. They need to tell me what procedures were followed. If nothing was followed and they just waited for me to give a bill of sale to them and they just slapped me with the successor liability, they didn't do their job. So those are the questions I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Baskarapandian. At this point, I will turn it over to the co-panelists to see if either of them has any questions for both sides. Mr. Aguirre?
No questions.
Mr. Anjuja?
So, I just want to clarify, from my understanding, are you saying that allegedly incomplete Form 65 negates the sale completely, or merely stops CDTFA from asserting successor liability?
It stops the liability because as per the thing, the publication 74, it says that if the forms are not, is not complete, the sale, the CDTFA rep will reach out to the person in order to collect the documents to close it.
So, in other words, you're not saying that the sale didn't occur, you guys are admitting
The sale occurred.
Okay. And then a question for CDTFA. That Form 65, I think it's been said, I just want to make it abundantly clear in my head, that's a form that the seller fills out, not the buyer.
Correct.
And it's also not something that CDTFA fills out.
It is a form that the seller fills out when they want to close their seller's permit.
Okay.
Any further questions?
Thank you. I do have a few questions, primarily, Mrs. Baskarapandian, as part of your testimony, you raised a few questions. So I'm going to take this opportunity to ask CDTFA your questions, the questions that you raised. You said, I would like to ask CDTFA if all of the documents and payments were collected from NGP. I'll turn that over to CDTFA.
To the extent the documents referred to in the Form 65, well, initially, Revenue Taxation Code Section 7056 prohibits us to disclose any confidential information about a taxpayer that's not party to this proceeding. And so collection activities and what was collected from that taxpayer were not at liberty to disclose here. So I'm not exactly sure what we would be able to answer.
Can I ask, are you saying that you cannot tell us whether you've collected money?
We can give the amount of the liability. We can't go into saying what payments, who made payments on behalf of. Right. We know, we can say that the liability, it exceeds $20,000. We can give the amount that remains, the amount of liability that remains.
Have you given that information to the appellant in this case? How much remains of the initial liability?
We should be asking whether payments have reduced the liability below the amount that issued here.
Right, which they have not.
Okay.
If I could add one other comment too, and this actually speaks toward the notice of closeout. Taxpayers are required to process the notice of closeout form, the 65 form that we're looking at before us. Occasionally, however, taxpayers won't notify us of their closeout. This form doesn't get submitted to us. We actually find through alternative means that a business is closed out. When that occurs, we'll close out the account. We may even be notified over the telephone. The taxpayer might notify us of their intention to close out the business, but frequently, taxpayers close their business. There is no form submitted. So to the extent that we require additional information on this form that isn't accurate, the information that was presented here is more than sufficient for us to indicate within our records that the account is closing out, and that was the intention.
Thank you. Mr. Giri, do you have any additional questions? I have an additional question that was posed by Mrs. Baskarapandian as part of her testimony. She said, I would like to ask CDTFA what methods were used to collect the liability from NGP?
That's confidential.
In terms of a follow-up to that, my question to CDTFA, whether they have attempted to collect the liability from the predecessor.
That's also confidential. We have introduced as evidence the notice of determination, which was approximately $56,000. We can say that the remaining liability is approximately $36,000. Petitioner or appellant can make inferences from that.
And just to clarify, the approximately $36,000 is tax, I think with penalties and interest, it's closer to $46,000.
One additional question, and I'll just ask this for the benefit of the taxpayers, because it is my understanding based on the pre-hearing conferences that there's a cloud of confusion surrounding this. So my question is, if we're dealing with successor liability, is there anything you could tell the taxpayers regarding the predecessor's liability that is not confidential?
We've provided a lot of work papers.
Those are the, just to clarify, those are the audited work papers for the for the predecessor, correct? Personally, I do not have any additional questions, but I'm going to ask my co-panelists whether they have any additional questions. Mr. Gary?
No questions.
Mr. Njija? That concludes this hearing. I'm sorry,
Closing statement,
what was that, sir?
or can I make a closing statement?
We already had the closing statements, and
That's
yeah, thank you. This concludes this hearing, OTA case number 1801-1966. The record in this matter is now closed, and the matter is submitted as of today, May 28th, 2019. This panel will send both parties our written decision no later than 100 days from today. Thank you all very much. We are now off the record.